Who are those people and why are they on that list? That email does not matter if you're not including the why.
A goal without a timeline is a dream. And the problem in real estate is we get so many false positives. Identifying where it hurts is like the real key. There's one person that really wants to move, and there's another person that doesn't like change. And they married each other. You can't manage if you can't measure. So, what we want to do is help them measure.
This is also why people often don't want to get on a call with a sales rep because they're worried you're going to make them change their plans.
Hey, welcome to The Leads Are Shit. This is a Real Estate Magazine podcast with the owner of Real Estate Magazine, Andrew Foliato, also the founder of Just Sell Homes, where they do marketing so realtors can just sell homes. My name is Taylor Hack. I am a team leader in Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm a realtor, and I imagine that you are too. Uh, and here we basically talk about sales and marketing because when marketing and sales are not aligned, what people say is the leads are shit. But the truth of the matter is that the leads are people and they can be your clients or not, right? And being able to sort them and filter them and file them and make this whole thing manageable is, I guess, the whole idea.
Yeah.
So this week, how you doing, Andrew?
I'm good, man. It's been a busy week. It's been fun. It feels like it's been a while since we talked. It's like, when you have one of those weeks where it's like it's felt like 3 weeks put into one.
Hmm.
It's been one of those in a good way. But yeah, it feels like it's been a while. All I remember from last week is that you only have 9 people on your list.
I still only have 9 people on my list. This is
Perfect.
something that I think we all go
Yeah.
through, where we have working on our business and working in our business. And when you're working in your business, something has to give.
Yeah.
And then when you're working on your business, you can sometimes be giving up opportunities. So you really have to choose the timing on this. So what I like to do is give myself crazy deadlines. I give myself crazy deadlines and then I work like a maniac. And I know that it sounds uncomfortable, but you can sprint or you can marathon, and I am a sprint man. I just want to get it done. I want to, and I eventually will do a better job of choosing less targets at once.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at. So at this point, my list is still at 9 because I'm not doing a good job telling people about it. And we're going to talk about what you do as you accumulate people and like, how do you make this manageable?
So, I mean, there's obviously the three kind of core components of it. And by the way, for people here live, let us know where you're from, put in the chat. And don't forget, you can ask as many questions as you want during it because you're here live. And if you're watching the recording, show up live next time. Um, so, so with email, like we try to break it down into a couple things. Like obviously there's the list growth part, which is we just need to get how can we add more people to get this list? And like depending on your current situation, that can kind of the focus there could change. Part two is when they join the list, what happens to them? And that means is like,
It's a good
what
way
are
to
they
put
getting? Yeah, like too many, like, and there's different parts of this, right? Like there's the obvious of they should get an email welcoming them and setting the expectations, but it's like on the form when they fill it out, if that's how they're joining, what do they see? And it's like, so
it.
it's like that initial onboard. And then for like you, like again, depends on again who's coming onto the list. Like if it's all past clients, it's going to be different than if this email list is also going to include maybe leads who don't aren't as aware of you yet. So we have to understand like what's the sources coming in because like if it's leads and you want them to join and you want them to also get this regular newsletter, we want to have a welcome series first. That's a few emails long that kind of sets the stage about who you are and how they can work with you. And
Hmm.
then they get the regular email because you want to have that initial like, hey, by the way, like, hey, before you start getting this email, here's what to expect from it. Here's why we started it. Here's a little bit about us so you know who it is that's emailing you. By the way, if you want to work with us, here's what the options for you are. And it's just like a simple, keep that pretty tight. And then they start getting the newsletter. If it's past clients, they don't need that same kind of welcome series to the list. So then you gotta think about that. And then there's just the content itself. How are you setting up the content in the newsletter to be value led, but still get people to put up their hand and talk to you about moving? So those are the main
Mhm.
ones because like, you have to have that valuable content that someone's going to want to open it every week. So the first question I was asked for you, like, let's take the nine that are on it now. Like, who are those people and why are they on that list?
And what are you doing to them? So I
Show
gotta
me
say
I'm
hi to
tall.
Ginger.
Yeah.
Ginger said hi. She's in London, England right now,
Nice.
but normally in Virginia. And I imagine she's it's evening there. She's maybe having a relax. And also, Susan, thank you for shouting it out who you are and where you're from, because a lot of people here are agents, and they're currently connecting people to people all over the place, including me. And I appreciate those people that have reached out so far. That's awesome. Um, when we talk about the 9 people that are on my insiders list, I guess the first thing is the promise that we made to them. So
Yeah.
we made a consistent promise with what we're planning on delivering. So, hey, we are going to give you more information on upcoming listings before they hit realtor.ca, which is where people view the general marketplace. Like that is the face of our marketplace here in Canada.
Yeah.
Um, and then when they come on, I'm just taking a look at my email templates. So I've got this set up so they fill out a form on my website and it uses a Zap to drop it into Follow Up Boss. And then we do our insider confirmation. So the first thing I built was a filter so that they actually have to send me, they have to confirm their email before they get the second tag in the system. And then they go forward from there. So now I'm looking in my folder for email templates. I have the insider confirmation and the verification request. So the insider confirmation is where we are saying your first insider listing alert will be coming soon. Want us to keep an eye out for something specific? Let us know what your ideal home is, neighborhoods you love, and your price range.
No.
And that's it. So we might be able to thicken this up as a welcome email, but I tried to make it short and readable. And then
Yeah.
my call to action is tell me what you're looking for.
So you do want that initial one. Like I like the short and sweet. That's what I often do. I mean, I sometimes I've tested both. And again, it depends on why people are joining. For why they're joining your list, which is to get that thing that's not really about you, it's about finding their next home. Um, that one I would go short, but I might change the question up because I want to get more because like that it's getting very, very like are you changing like say you take that data, are you changing the insider alerts they're getting? Because I think everyone's getting the same insider alerts, right?
No, but when we would call that a hand raiser. So as soon as somebody
Yeah,
told us what they were looking for, now we're going to assume that's a sales qualified lead instead of a marketing qualified lead.
but it
And then we
doesn't.
would be at risk in not engaging them because they're likely going to run into other agents.
So I think a better sale, like say the transition to a sales qualified lead question there, instead of like the type of home they want, would be a question like, um, if the right home comes up on this list, are you in a position to buy it? Or are there things that you need to check off first before that would happen?
Oh, that's spicy, Andrew.
Right?
I
Like
like
that.
that.
Because your question doesn't help you establish timeline, which if you don't know timeline, then they're not a sales qualified lead yet.
I would totally agree with you. And that's a great border to kind of jump from marketing qualified. It's
Yeah.
because a goal without a timeline is a dream.
Yeah.
And the problem in real estate is we get so many false positives. We get so many false positives because shelter is a base human need. Like we have like intrinsic reasons that we pay attention to this.
Yeah.
So dividing that out in that way, where we actually like change the conversation to timeline instead of what you're looking for, and then maybe possibly do like a follow up with more things like this if we couldn't get a
Yeah.
hold of them, but really try to get a hold of them if they have a timeline.
Yeah. And that's the like that's what I'd want to say because like at the end of the day, the type of home they want doesn't really matter at this stage to you that much. but the timeline does. So we focus there. Um, and then after that email, that's now where I would add probably another two emails that go to them at least. One would be a kind of a here's what like because you have the first one to try and get the reply, which has two benefits. One, sales qualified lead identification, and two, if they reply, they're less likely to have any future emails go into their spam. So sometimes the benefit, instead of trying to identify a sales qualified lead, is just to get a reply so you don't end up in their spam. So sometimes that question is like, what's the easiest question you could ask that would get them to reply to it? And sometimes that might be, by the way, I just want to make sure that this email didn't go to your spam. Can you just reply and let me know that you got it? Just a simple got it is more than enough. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Right? Because then now they're just giving you that, yep, nope, didn't go to my spam. Now it's going to go into their inbox, ideally their primary one, and they'll start getting it more. So those are kind of the two routes you go with it. And I think that's if you start seeing a lot of like low open rate, like if your open rate's going to be super low with nine people, it's too early to get into that. But if it's a super low open rate, then we'd want to, that's probably a good indication a bunch are going to spam. So then we would want to just change that first one to get them to reply to it as soon as possible. Um, if you are getting a good open rate, you're getting that side, then yeah, we're going to try and use it to identify the sales qualified leads in that bunch. Then the second email is kind of like the one that establishes you as the expert. So this is the like, hey, here's kind of how we can help you, but you're not framing it as a pitch yet. It's more like a story based, essentially like why we created this list, but you're writing it in the way that establishes you as the expert in the community. Um, then the next email is the when you're ready, here's how we can help you. And it just kind of breaks down if you're looking to sell your home, you can book this consultation or find out what your home is worth. If you're a buyer, here's the next step. Um, if you're unsure what you need to do, book a 15-minute call with our team. We'll point you in the right direction, type of thing.
So would you call that like a choose your own adventure call to action?
Yeah. So it's and then I this is one of Dean Jackson favorite things. You ever heard him talk about the Jennifer Leathers stuff?
No.
So it's a great story, and I'm trying to remember it exactly. Um, so forgive me if I get this wrong because I haven't heard in a while. But basically, it's like there's a story of like Jennifer Leathers couches or something like that. That's a guy goes into a store that's like a warehouse for couches. And on like the wall, like throughout it, there's like a beautiful leather couch. And it's like a brown leather couch, but this person wanted something else. Well, the sales rep comes up, he's like, "Hi, welcome to Jennifer Leather's Couches. We have this couch available that you see in front of you in all these different colors. Here's all the swatches with them. We also have a huge warehouse in the back where they all are, so you could actually take it with you today, and we can actually get everything sorted as soon as you're ready and get it out the door." But the idea behind it was if someone's coming in to get that couch, they're looking at it and saying, "Okay, I like the brown couch, but I actually wanted it in black, and I don't see a black one out here." So the salesperson's already knows all the objections to why they won't walk away with the couch today, which is it's not the color I want, and I don't want to wait 8 weeks for one to be made. So that's why I probably wouldn't actually leave one with today. But he's like, okay, well, I can get you every couch in here in all these different colors. That's what I'm going to show you right now. So anything you see here, we can get you in all these different versions, and we have them all on site ready to go in the back. So even if you don't see it here, you can still walk out with it today. And it's that idea of like they figured out the two most common objections they get. Let's answer them on the spot. So like your emails, you're going to structure them around like what are the most common objections you would have or people would have to getting on a phone call with you based on why they're coming onto this, right? So that first one, you're just trying to get the reply. The second and third, you're trying to accomplish that. What are those things why they wouldn't get on a call with me? Let's make sure we answer that.
Mhm. So I see where you're going with that. And normally, what I know about buyers is that they're afraid of two things: missing the one or paying too much.
Yeah.
That's like the two real steering points of buyers.
Hmm.
So in my market right now, inventory is low, and they are probably at this stage paying worried about paying too much,
Yeah.
but also missing the one. That's probably what brought them to the insiders list in the beginning.
Yeah. So in the second email, I would focus on that, which is that idea of I want to make sure you don't miss on your ideal home. So this list is one of the tools that makes sure that you don't miss it. There's these other tactics we take to make sure that our clients never miss their ideal home. Here's what they are. And then if you want to get these others implemented for you so that you can make sure that you don't miss your ideal home, just hit reply or click here to book a call with someone on our team and we'll get you set up. Because then, like, there you're like, all right, we'll do that. Like, we'll get you on this list. That's one. We'll get you on the drip for newly listed homes. That's two. Um, we'll send a piece of mail out to your ideal neighborhood to help find the homes. For our VIP clients, our whole team will go door knocking your preferred area to find if there's any people who are thinking about selling but haven't hit the market yet so that you can get there ahead of them. All right. So like you add in those things that like these are things you're never these they will never do themselves, right? Like they're not going to go and send a direct mail out to every single house in the area they're thinking of. They're not going to have a team of people who can go do that door knocking. And maybe you won't do that either, but if you do or are willing to, you put that there. Like when I sold, that was like a thing that I put into my BRA as an extra reason to sign it was every X amount of time before you find a house, you get a day of me going out and door knocking your preferred area. And I would just literally go knock X number of homes and see if I could find a off-market house for them.
Man, that's slick because like the other thing is you find a bunch of other things like compounding effect
Yeah.
of door knocking for people that do match or don't match these people in that neighborhood, especially if it's a neighborhood you're after.
Oh, I got a little like one street I actually did really well on because like I knocked the whole street, found a guy for one of my clients, listed that they negotiated. We got to do like long story short, we still got them to put my sign in the lawn for a bit. House went up, then my client negotiated. We got the house for them. Another person called on the sign before we actually firmed up. They wanted it. I got to go around again to every house, being like, I got a client, and we just sold that one with them. Through that sale, someone else came up who wanted a house on this street specifically. It didn't work out. They couldn't get that one because our other clients bought it. He thought of moving too. And it's like they saw me in quick rotation, buyer sold, another buyer coming around. And it's like that for that street was really powerful because it wasn't a big street.
Well, the social proof of them seeing a realtor work,
Yeah.
right? Like they've never seen a realtor work before. And here
Especially,
you
yeah.
are making magic happen right where they live.
Yeah. And that's why I always look at like what are those things you can add into it that's going to drive that. So putting that into an email where it's like, here's what we do. And like you could even then create a case study, right? Like in that email, you could be like, you can hit reply. Um, P.S. If you want to read this case study of how this system got this person their dream home before it hit the market, click here to read it. And then it just kind of goes to a post that breaks down all these steps you took for a client. Um, and that store case study is like just a massive social proof of like, here's all these things we did and all the benefits they got. And you want to hit on those things that most realtors don't do, or even if they do, they don't communicate it well. Because there's a lot of things that like every realtor does, but they don't talk about. It's like I got that idea because like remember the Thank You for Smoking? I think we've talked about it here before. You've seen it though.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
So like they talk about when they're trying to like advertise cigarettes when like bans were happening of like everyone does that. You're like, okay, well, they're not talking about it. We just talk about it.
Oh, because they were talking about whether or not the tobacco was smoked or cut or like
Toasted.
it was something that didn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like,
And
well,
they're
now
like, well,
yours.
everybody does that.
Yeah,
And that's
that
the
actually, it
same
might have been
thing.
Mad Men that did that one too. Like this, Thank You for
Yeah.
Smoking and Mad Men had a very similar point there, around that
But
idea.
this is the same thing. Like, let's say that you forget to put a central air conditioning on a listing, and the house
Yeah,
down the street puts it on the listing, but both houses have it.
yeah,
It's bad news for your listing,
yeah, because it's an easy
right?
one that they're gonna jump over.
Well,
Um,
like the thing is that that you're hiding a strength, and
yeah,
your opponent isn't, and you want to do that to other people.
yeah,
You know, you want to be where everybody else has central air. And you can see this at a real master level when people explain the tools. So like the stuff we all get when it comes to buyers is the Pro Tools. Like in some markets, it's called Matrix, or
yeah.
in mine, it's called Paragon. But coming on to the Pro Tools and having that experience driven by someone who actually has neighborhood experience and market experience,
Yeah.
that's a powerful value proposition. Like we can tell you how often the stuff you want to buy comes to the market at the price you want to pay and the place you want to live.
Yeah.
And if it comes once a week, then you should wait for the right kitchen. But if it comes once every 4 months, you better be ready to start the car.
And I would like, because the tools now, this is one of those things you want to look at too, is how can I leave the impression with the buyer or seller that this tool that I'm using that every other realtor has, because like you having access to Matrix is not a differentiator, but you want to leave the impression with them that it's the carpenter, not the hammer or not the saw, right? So it's like how you use it is different than
Yeah,
how,
they use it to solve
yeah.
problems. They
Yeah.
they think it's a method to look at what's available, and Realtor.ca does that fine.
Yeah. And just like I used to do, like even just a simple one, I had like all these saved searches to pop up very specific types of homes of my knowledge based on like how people write listing descriptions to surface fixer-uppers or to surface power of sales. And like, so even though like our MLS at the time had no way to search for power of sales, I was able to create a saved search that surfaced all the power of sales.
Hmm.
And it's like that little thing for a lot of people made a big difference. Even though there's like back when I was selling, like there's so few power sales. Now there's obviously more, but there's like none at the time, but it's a great kind of differentiator. So it's like looking at how can you approach that and do it. Um, and yeah, we just look at how much can we do that type of thing. So for your emails, that's what you want to get across is that here's why we're different and how we're going to help you accomplish that goal, which is kind of the reason you signed up for it. But like, this is just one piece of that puzzle.
Okay, so now we're creating this list and we're going to fulfill our value proposition by sharing listings that we have coming to the market, right?
Yeah.
And is there other things that we should be sending this same group?
So obviously you want that, and then you also want a if you like if they respond or that we're not ready to jump on one of these houses if they come, you want to focus on making them ready. So you want to have that ability to be like, and sometimes that could be in the first email if they reply we're not ready yet. You just have a pre-built sequence to now help them, or you can then include that in there of like, by the way, if you're not actually ready to buy a home today, here's everything you need to make sure, or are you like to make sure you're ready to buy a home when the right one comes up, here's every duck you need in a row. Because even someone who thinks they're ready might not realize they are until they see that list.
What about things like deals of the week or example of the week?
So I mean, I'm a huge proponent of those. And I would make that a very regular newsletter, which is still a little bit different than like the insider thing, right? Like to me though, because like the insider email to a degree is kind of like a breaking news email. You don't know when it's coming because we're sending it to you as they come up, and sometimes these are time sensitive. Deal of the week is like every Thursday, I'm going to send you the best deal on the market.
So
And
then what I would do then is maybe at the bottom of some of my insider emails to invite people to join
yeah,
the deal of the week email.
yeah, and that you can even just label that as like here's a benefit you can have. We also have this, and then on the insider or the deal of the week emails, be like, by the way, if you want to join our insider list, which is like the breaking news version of this, um, click here. So the deal of the week, there's kind of two core components of it. So the first one is obviously finding a good deal that you can put in it. The most important part of it is your thoughts on why it's a good deal. Like that email does not matter if you're not including the why. Because a lot of people who read that email, the odds of them even viewing that home are pretty small. But they're going to read it because they want to learn about what makes a good deal. And it's establishing you now as the expert to identify good deals. Um, and you don't have to frame it as deal of the week. It could be like loft of the week, condo of the week. Like if your niche is more like artsy, it could be related to design, like best designed home on the market this week, or right? Like you're finding something that your ideal clients care the most about.
Hmm.
And that's one where so like for example, if everyone you talk to in your niche was like, the most important thing to me is I just want a beautiful lot. Like I want that big backyard for my kids. You'd be like, best backyards on the market. Here's why we like this one the most. Best lot. Because like you can fix up a house, but you can't change a lot. Right? So it's
Hmm.
like for your clients, what is that thing? We call it a deal of the week because it's just like that's the easiest way to explain it. And then from a operating standpoint, you can kind of take two approaches with it. So approach one is you give them all the details about the property. Those who are like really ready to go, it's just like if you want to book a showing on this, hit reply, and you're getting that kind of really qualified person coming through. Option two, you don't give them the address. You kind of give them a high level, hey, the deal of the week this week is a 3 bedroom home in Northeast Edmonton with this, and this. Do you want the details? And you're starting a conversation. So for how you're doing it as like an insider thing, I would do that, the give them the details and get the higher quality lead out of it. Um, but it's not crazy once in a while to test out the do you want the details on this one?
Mm.
And you can even frame that once in a while as like hey, this one isn't ready to like quite be on the market yet. So like they've said I can talk vaguely about it, but I can't um put like a full ad out for this property. So here's some high level stuff. If you want the details, shoot me a private message. Just hit reply. Because then they're like you're adding reasons why they have to talk to you about it. Um, and it kind of is what it is there, but that's where you want to think about it. Am I giving them everything and letting the highly qualified people reply, or am I just teasing them a bit and trying to get as many replies as possible?
So this is great. So tease them about a property that isn't yet signed as a way to make the list talk to you.
No. And that could be like part of like say you're doing your deal of the week. That could be like a PS, be like, PS, we're in talks with a seller who has an amazing deal if they decide to sell. Um, it's like a 3 bedroom home in this part of town. If they do make that decision, do you want the details? Right. So it's like, here's the deal of the week. By the way, here's this like bonus deal that might come, but you got to let us know if you're interested. So you hybrid it a bit.
Mm. Okay. So now I'm also thinking about like things that are kind of similar with my brand that might work really well for me, the way I like to send out information.
Yeah.
And so if I think I might want to talk about five-star houses. So houses that have top location, top condition, top characteristics,
Yeah.
and then also talk about houses that aren't five stars across the board and what it would take to get them there, right? Like, okay, we're already in a cul-de-sac. This square footage is going to be tough to work with, but here's
Yeah.
what it would take to make like so you'd really have to go for this audience. So because it's a manageable square footage, we're going to try to make a jewel box home here and do high-end finishes in and shoot for those people that are downsizing.
Yeah. So you could literally introduce a rating system and be
Hmm.
like, this house right now is 4.5 stars. Here's what I need to get five. And then it's kind of like is it possible to make this house a five? Right. So okay, the issue is like the roof sucks. then be like, it's gonna cost X amount to probably fix that roof. Here's the range. That would mo make this a 5 star, but because it's not, you can get it for this.
Ooh, I like that. Or
Right.
also to talk about like how different houses are for different people.
No.
So to say like this could be a 5 star listing, but in a cul-de-sac, you're really shooting for a family, right?
Yeah.
Like this one, it would have to be for these types of people. What is your house or who is your house for? Well, we know 5 star when we see it. We know how to make 5 stars. Really like get
Yeah.
associated with that.
Or like so like I'm on a quiet court where there's 6 houses. You got to be a person who's willing to like have people all up in what you're doing. Like the 6 houses here, because there's only 6 of us and it's an out of the way court. We know what's happening with everyone. Like we know every car that comes on if it's one of us, and like we know what's going on. We know who's been to the hospital. We know who's had this and who's had that. And like, whereas like my brother who lives 200 meters away, barely even knows his next door neighbor because they're on a
Hmm.
very main street, so people don't really go out front that much, right? So it's that idea of like, if you would rather that, that's a better house for you. If you like that kind of environment on a court, it's great. If you are very, very private, you don't like people who are like, "Oh, I saw you were leaving at this time," right? If that is so like against everything you want, this type of court would not be for you.
Hmm.
Like the amount of times like neighbors will just stand outside in the court with a beer and chat. Like,
Yeah, and I like that like tapping into those vibes is how
yeah,
you move through a community and how you learn to talk to the community
yeah,
because the people that live on the busy street may be longing for that. Like maybe
yeah,
they grew up in a place where they knew their neighbors and they kind of think the world doesn't do that anymore. They're just in the wrong spot.
yeah.
I like the idea of marketing in real estate to talk about how you know that you're in the wrong spot. Like some people need to know that it's time to downsize or right size. And the
So,
way I like to talk to them about it is, do you have a bathroom you clean more than you use?
so here's an interesting one on that too. So this is why we bought this house, which is kind of right around what you're thinking is. So our last house was a good house. Like when we bought it, my wife at the time thought it was going to be a like 25-year type of house. Raised bungalow apartment in the basement, but we were on a technically we were on a court, but it was on like a corner that had a huge hill. So like if the ball left the front yard, it's going to
Oh
be a
no.
kilometer. It's a kilometer until you catch up to it. Like, and I'm not exaggerating. It's a kilometer until you catch up with it. It's a big long, like the neighborhood was called the Hills of St. Andrews for a reason. Um, and so one of the point that finally made her realize it was like a glass shatter moment for her of like, we could never in our driveway or on the street in front of us teach our kids to ride their bike.
Yeah.
Like that
You don't want
little,
them to end up like the ball.
yeah, literally. Like you, and like as another example, just one day I was just back when I worked at Remax head office. I got a phone call and it just happened. My mom was driving by 'cause she lived nearby. She's like, I don't want to alarm you. Uh, there's a school bus crashed on your front lawn. And a school bus just kind of lost control, went right, jumped the curve across my front lawn, and wrapped itself around a tree that no longer existed on my front lawn anymore. Um, but yeah, it's just like where we were.
This was a winter event.
Uh, no, actually, it was not. It
This
was
was a
literally they
drinking
were
event.
trying to do like he was turning around the bus driver, and then when he went to go hit the brake, accidentally missed and hit the gas.
Oh, okay.
And just gunned it and right around a tree. But literally, it was like because of where we were, that wasn't a crazy like. Yes, it was a little nuts, but like it wasn't outside the realm of possibility. And how easily, with how much like our kids now play outside, we would have been like, kids can't play out front there anymore. Too many cars
Totally.
by. Whereas
Oh
like
yeah.
here, I can like during COVID when you had to like the distancing, the parents of the kids on the court, we just sit at the end of our driveways in a chair with a beer and let the kids run around. Then
Hmm.
we just chat from there because you could never have done that at the old house. But like pointing out those things was like my wife was just like, oh yeah, no, here's all those. So like for you where it's like, hey, is your right home right for you? You can get into that, assign that your home's not the right home. Can your kids play out front? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
and you
Like,
teach them to ride a bike where you are.
mm,
So like my brother who's on the busy street, that still works on though, because like right across the street from him, there's an entrance into a really long straightaway that's very quiet. So like even though right in front of his house he can't, 100 feet away was a place he could do it. So we kind of got that for him the best of both worlds. Whereas mine, just because of that hill, there was no scenario where that was happening. So like I would have had to drive them somewhere to teach them to ride a bike.
I see what you mean. And like you have to get in tune with what people need. So having a case study talking about like, yeah, this what they realized when they were playing catch one day is that this will never be a house where they can
No.
uh like have kids on bikes. Like that as a case study is compelling.
Yeah.
Um, then also to think about there's going to be people that are in the wrong location. So you might be able to tell them about average commute times, and if they're over the average commute time,
Yeah.
that might be something to change. There are also people that are in the wrong locations and maybe they are in a place where like they're close to downtown, but they don't need to be. Well, they're over invested in location and
Yeah.
they would either get higher characteristics or higher condition if they repurpose their money.
And sometimes people have a misconception of, and this might be more of a, it's a good Toronto example, is like, so I'll use myself again here, is how close you are to the highway versus how physically far you are from your office can have like a interesting difference. So like my old house, which was 20 minutes south, closer to Toronto, was actually the same commute I am now, 20 minutes north to Toronto, because east west, we were closer to a highway here and closer to the specific on ramp, whereas our old house was right between two highway on ramps. So like we were kind of in the middle. So like to get
Oh
out to the
yeah.
highway and then down took
It
so
might
much
be
extra time than us were like not far from the on ramp at all. And it's like that. So it was actually that we saved like 100 grand in the cost of the house by moving 20 minutes north. And but we're actually the exact same commute time just by time in car, even though the
yeah,
distance
well,
is
other people might be measuring this by distance, like
yeah.
as the crow flies or whatever,
Yeah.
but they don't fly like crows.
Mhm.
So you should actually measure it like, hey, how do I get there and how long is it going to take and how does that change at different times
Yeah.
of day?
Yeah.
But if you are in a desirable commute time from somewhere that you don't go, you're
Yeah.
in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
You know, like you got to go because
Yeah.
you shouldn't be making the trade-offs that you're making unless there's something else compelling there.
So for you, it's like when we're going back, tying it back to like your emails, it's kind of delivering those glass shattering moments where it's like, because a lot of people don't realize stuff like that until it's pointed out to them, then they can't unthink it, right? Like it's the, like, I don't know if you used to watch How I Met Your Mother, where
Hmm.
it's like when you're dating and then like you don't notice this annoying thing someone you're on a date with does until someone points it out, then you can't unsee it and they're forever ruined. It's like almost can you provide that moment for someone that forever ruins their house and makes them want to move? Right? It's just that thing where they're like, "Oh yeah, no, he's right. I totally that house is not. We got to move." Doing that without being a dick about it, basically, is the goal. Um,
Yeah, well, I call it the pain index.
yeah,
So a lot of people like they go to see someone like a chiropractor because they feel like they're out of alignment, um, and now they have to deal with it. In most situations, people navigate by pain. So there's a whole bunch of people out there that don't realize that the pain they're in is
yeah,
lower than the pain of change. And as soon as you pass that horizon, that's when change should take place. So identifying where it hurts is like the real key. And you can call to it this way. Now, the other thing that's happening is inside all the houses of all the families that we serve, there's one person that really wants to move, and there's another person that doesn't like change. And they married each other, right? And so in there is a constant argument where one person is asking for things and the other person is defending. And the way that they often defend is with logic. And the logic is, oh, interest rates are too high. Or this is like, we won't get what we want.
Yeah.
or our house isn't worth enough. And what you want to do is allow that other side to have better arguments. So if you can find a way to put something in your email that someone else can use like a weapon and say, hey, look, interest rates just went down yesterday. That's the easy one, right?
Yeah.
But what Andrew's talking about is these context things. Like, hey, did you notice that where we are between these two on-ramps means that you have 17-minute longer commute time than if we lived in that neighborhood I was talking to you about? And it looks like we could sell our house for more than they can sell their house. So you could really have the same house over here with 17-minute less commute time. Like, what's your argument against that now?
Yeah. And it's speeding up that process to them where they'll reach out to you quicker about it. Like that's
Ooh,
the
and
main thing.
okay, so this is another way to like for calls to action. What we all know is that you can't manage if you can't measure. So what we want to do is help them measure. That's what how much is my house worth is about. As soon as we help them measure, they will manage. Those people that come to us and in the first conversation, they say they're 6 months away from moving.
Yeah.
Once they have a meeting, they're almost always 3 months away from moving, or possibly even like 16 weeks away from moving.
Yeah.
Or, like it just changes everything around that. So know that your participation will shorten their timeline, and calling to the things where they have gaps is actually where you can accelerate that.
And then keep in mind, like during that, this is also why people often don't want to get on a call with a sales rep because they're worried you're going to make them change their plans, right? Like people have that. Like this is a lot of people's hesitation is like this is being sold to. So when you're trying to get someone to jump on that call with you, it's you have to increase the like level of pain, and pain's not the right word, but you know what I mean, of like they're willing to overcome this pain of getting on that call with you because what you're offering them is so much more.
Mhm.
Right. So it's like, how are you kind of getting there? Um, and they just
Well,
often,
especially
yeah,
if your well-crafted offer makes them feel stupid by not accepting.
yeah, that's the Godfather offer. It's an offer they couldn't refuse to get on a call with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's back to the buyer offer in the second email of here's all the things we'll do for you to help you find that home you don't want to miss.
So it looks like in attendance here right now, we have Ginger, Susan, Myra, Jennifer, and everyone else's AI bots just listening and taking notes.
We got a lot of other people. They're just not talking in the chat.
Okay, well, they didn't introduce themselves. They
Yeah,
didn't tell me where they're from. I'm
yeah,
assuming they're bots.
yeah. No, I'd say it's looking about 10% of the people here are bots right now.
That sounds fair. And we
Yeah,
welcome your bots. I like that you
yeah,
collect our good ideas.
yeah.
Um,
So there's another type of email we send, the regular one besides the deal of the week. And this is one that like is essentially like my Tuesday email from Just Sell Homes that we send out, which is something we've talked about as a concept before, which is like you becoming the local news for your audience. And so like even with the deal of the week, you could still have this for your database. But what we do is it's like, here's what's going on in the community. And it's like hyperlinks to three things, or it's like, here's what's happening this weekend in Edmonton. And then you have a real estate section. That's where the deal of the week could also live and where some extra insights can go. But it's really about like, I'm keeping you informed on what's happening in Edmonton. Real estate is a part of that. And then you have your calls to action at the end. But that one, the idea behind that one versus deal of the week is whether you're on this email list and you bought a house yesterday or you're in the market, you're still going to find value. Like at whatever point you are, you want to get this email. And that's what we do with like our Tuesday emails. Like whether you're in the market for our services or not, I still want you to want to get our email.
Yep, and identifying that most of the people you talk with are just homeowners, not buyers and sellers
Yeah.
at the time you engage them, is really what that appeals to. And you can kind of look at it like there has to be programming and a commercial, and you got to accept it. You're the commercial. Like when I do property video, I know I'm the commercial. So I introduce it at the beginning, I let it happen, and then I kind of bop in there a couple of times just so they have to look at my bald self. And that helps build familiarity.
Yeah. And that's like so much of our stuff we don't sell in at all. Like there's so many things I do where I don't put any pitches at all because it's that just
Mm.
give, 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 or the classic Gary V way of jab, 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 right hook, right? Like you give enough content. So like great example, kind of a more offline version. Every year when I sold, which granted was only a couple of years, I did Light Up Aurora, which is a Christmas light competition. Had nothing to do officially with my real estate business, was just a we're gonna go and find the most Clark Griswold house in Aurora, and then we're gonna let everyone vote on it. We had local businesses donate prizes to it. But to vote, you had to go to my website where all like the polls were posted. But the amount of business we got from that of like people who just appreciated the value we gave to the community of hosting this because we'd also include a like map of where all the houses that entered were. So like if you want to do a drive around and see them all, you could do that. And it was almost just like a separate event sponsored by the real estate side of the business. But like the same guy won every year because no one ever competed with his level of dedication to his house. But like every
He
year,
was Clark Griswold.
he literally, and I just go by his house with his prize every year. And he goes, "Oh, like there's not even a question. I love what you're doing here. Like the day we sell, there's not going to be another call. You just
Oh,
will,
cool.
you are the guy." And I had never even once like talked about being a realtor with him.
Hmm.
I just kind of happened to be on my website to go vote. And then like on the signs, I made them kind of look like for sale signs that are like vote
It
for
happened to be
this.
strategically set up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So
got it.
like a lot of things reminded you I was clearly a realtor. Uh,
Totally.
but yeah, like that was the one I liked is I actually went and I'd get like the sold sign, the for sale posts, and that's what you'd want to put the thing on. Um, because you want everybody to see like have that impression of that looks like a for sale sign. And then it's like vote for
Hmm.
this house and light up Aurora. And works great.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But it's
I
just
like
like
it.
we provide that and like the easiest email inclusions ever. Right? Like, hey, we got three more people who submitted their house. Hey, we had these businesses make the prize. Vote for your favorite winners. Here's the winner. And you just keep going on with that. And that was December when no one really cares as much about real estate, which is the added bonus too, is you get that perfect like during the quietest time of year for content for realtors, you can almost like be over exposed to them.
That's actually like where I'm at with my database right now. Like when we take a look at the jab, jab, jab,
Yeah,
we're we just been jabbing a whole bunch. Like we did client interview or client event last September, leading into December, where we did a smaller exclusive client event, along with dropping off Christmas potpourri jars to everybody.
yeah,
Then we've already sent out an email now that is talking to them about their tax assessments
yeah,
and highlighting what's going on, and then inviting them to our client event at Launchpad this weekend. So we are super tight right now, probably the tightest I've ever been on my database, and my market is rising, right? So like I'm an agent that's been doing this at high volume for 12 years. I've got a big database that's about to mature, and as soon as people know that the equity in their house has opened up a new option set,
yeah.
we're just going to be everywhere.
And if I were you too, especially this time of year, go find an accountant that you know well and just be like, can you do a Zoom for my clients where they can come on and ask questions, but you're going to open with like a, here's what's new that you got to know about taxes this year. And then they
Mm.
can ask you questions after that. But for them, it's like they get to potentially get in front of however many new clients and you get great content for them too. So it's like, when can you deliver those timely things? But like, I would be booking that ASAP is find an accountant you trust who can come on and talk about it. Be like, here's the things that most people miss, or like the most common tax benefits people miss or overpay or whatever it is. Get your people on it, and then offer a private Q&A for people at the end. Because everyone likes to get free advice from a professional.
What else? What other people are like the accountant? What's another like time of year or professional expert like that?
So when the snow's starting to melt, you bring in like a landscaper to talk about some stuff there. Um, you could bring in, and it doesn't even have to be always time of year, right? Like if it's there's not a good time of year, just bring in like an interior designer, be like, they're gonna come in to talk about design trends we're seeing. And by the way, if you have questions that you'd love to get answered by a designer, join us. And if you want, even submit like a photo of a place you're thinking of ahead of time, and we can even share it with them and have them comment on the call live. And the way I structure that call is 20 minutes is just you talking to the person, the expert. That's the
Hmm.
recorded part that you get that for social. Then the rest of it is your clients asking questions, or like if it's an interior designer, then they're submitting the photos. That's the private benefit for your people that doesn't go on your social because they'll ask better questions and feel more value if they know this is going to end up on Instagram or YouTube or something like that. But you want that 20-minute section with you and the person first so that you can use that content. That
Hmm.
transitions to, all right, guys, get this private benefit.
Yep. I got it. Yeah, that's definitely cool. I got a whole bunch of notes for that.
Yeah, it
Hmm.
works. Right. And then yeah, so that's how we do that email on that one. Like that's for example, there's some tricks like you want to make sure people read the whole thing. So we always put something at the bottom of the email that they want to scroll to. So
I added like I've got two office dogs,
yeah,
and so that's something that we've added is like we have endless pictures of them.
yeah, super easy one. And it doesn't have to be like that idea because like I know I'm a big proponent of my puppy of the week thing. It doesn't have to be that. It could also be like trivia. Morning Brew, if you're familiar with them, they do a great job of this, and different versions of this where they'll put like a question at the beginning and the answer is just at the bottom. So it's like, here's an intriguing question you might never have thought of, but you now that you've been asked it, you just really want to know the answer. And it's not that you have to like reply or anything. It's just like at the very, very bottom of the email, the answer's there. So it's like you have to scroll down to get it. So like the best example of this, which is like it's such an easy one, which is um why do people in Scotland paint their door red?
Hmm.
And then the bottom of the email, the answer, and then like after you ask, I'd be like, the answer's at the bottom of the email. The answer is when people pay off their mortgage in Scotland, it's tradition to paint your door red.
Hot. That's a good one.
Right? Like it's such like a random little trivia thing. And you can also have like local facts. Anything you can find that like ties it back to like you being a local expert, the better. But finding these like kind of cool little anecdotes, and you can even do them multiple choice. Be like, here's a multiple choice question, answers at the bottom,
I was built for this.
right? Useless trivia, it's the best. But like all you're trying to do is make sure they scroll, because like what I can tell you from experience with Puppy of the Week is, and people will say this, like I opened your newsletter this week. I didn't actually want to read any of it. I just wanted to check out the puppy. And then they're like, but then I was scrolling down to it and the headline caught my eye and I booked this call.
Away you go.
Yeah, and, like it worked.
For these people that are hanging out with us here in the chat, it is a time of year to definitely do pop buys with your clients. So I'm going to throw out a pop by idea, and then if you are want to in the chat, if there's anything that you know is a real hit, you let us know. We'd love to collaborate with you. So I'm going sidewalk chalk this year. I think it's something that people buy almost every year. It's kids love getting a new thing. Parents like the idea that it takes like maybe kids are easy to monitor when they're just drawn on this driveway.
No.
So that's where I'm going with my pop buys to the families that we serve. Is there pop by ideas that you guys know and know that work well?
Chalk's good. You know it's actually good? I have to look at the price of it. What the kids love it are the chalks that looks like a crayon, but like it's massive. Have you ever seen
Yeah,
like those really like
giant
the
dogs. Yeah,
comical
and
ones
it's
that they
a
would never.
yeah.
Yeah. They would like never get it for themselves. Like those things that like people would never buy for themselves, but if they get it, they're like, this is awesome. Make
Hmm.
great things like that. I'm just like, I would never have gotten that for myself because it's kind of ridiculous, but I love that I have it. Um, my buddies and I did that for a bachelor party. We bought a bunch of Nerf guns as adults and we had Nerf fights. And like it's such like a stupid thing at the time. We were all like, we are grown men. Like we're like, this is actually the best part of that. Like, it was one of those random weekends away where like this is the greatest little thing. And I kind of joked, I was like, I'm just gonna start showing up at their houses now with Nerf guns now that their kids are getting older.
Yeah.
They're gonna love it. I was
Yeah, you
like,
got to go there right before they get home from work and plan an ambush.
yeah,
That's
oh
like
yeah,
the way to go.
yeah. Oh, and then like I'm actually one of my buddies is getting married soon. The bachelor party is they're doing like a canoe trip, but the night before at Airbnb. And I was like, I want to actually go up first. And like, but like, because normally we would just get like the little cheap ones. I'm like, I'm gonna get one of those like high end like Gatling gun ones. Wait for people to come in and
You
pummel
got to
them.
find the guys on TikTok that
Yeah,
modify these ones and get
yeah,
one that runs on like a Milwaukee drill battery,
yeah.
right? It'll put the darts right through your hand.
There would actually be a funny oh, Bubbles, kids love it. Yeah.
Ooh,
Bubbles,
bubbles are the way to go. I
Bubbles are
agree.
good. Um, and then there's also some
They're kind
ways
of
that
on
you can,
brand for me too. I do a lot of dots.
yeah, no, the Bubbles one's good work. You know what you could also do is like, for you on the Bubbles thing is like, my buddy bought it for my kids. It creates like 1,000 bubbles a minute. It's like you put
Oh,
it in
like
the
a thing.
bottom and it, and they go
Mm.
everywhere, and it's insane. But the kids go nuts for it. There could be a way to like include something like that. Or like what I would look at doing too is house tours, put them outside for the videos. So like when they're doing that initial thing, like looking out, doing like the pan of the outside, have these bubble machines going, gets the attention. It's
Huh.
unusual, it's different, right? Like it's
Interesting.
an extra way to do a little bit of a hook and brand it that way.
Yeah, well, if we were to do something like bubbles, we should go big into it, and then we'll also put them at our open houses and possibly get those bubble makers to like as an
Yeah.
actual attraction. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Go big. And you start using bubbles as your mascot. Get the big glasses.
I'm like a little too close looking to him for comfort, actually. Uh,
Makes it better.
I
That
need
makes it better.
to. That's not so good.
Uh, good times. Yeah, like, but I still think there's this thing where more people need to do it. It's just like diving into this idea of find something unique to put into your videos, of like listing videos, especially if you're not in it, that everyone knows that it's kind of like a Easter egg for you. It's like in Seinfeld, how every episode has Superman in it.
Yeah.
Like when you know, and like you start looking
So the
for
Seinfeld
it.
thing was how I started the House Hulk, which became a contest that we did before, and now we're bringing it back as Find the Frenchie.
Yeah,
And I have a giant gold Frenchie from House Sense. It's actually like hard to hide, and then we're gonna slowly move it down to like a keychain to
yeah.
make the game harder as people catch on. But in the beginning, it'll be pretty obvious.
That'd be another super easy way, by the way, for you to like grow a social following of local people is hide one with like a $50 bill somewhere in Edmonton and just be like, we hid this, find it. First one to find it gets 50 bucks.
Hmm.
Follow us for the next one. Because then you know it's all local people going to find it. That's the Mr. Beast strategy of just give stuff away. Like you got $100 marketing budget. All right. Just give $100 to people. It'd be an easy way to grow with only people from Edmonton because they're the only ones who could win it. Then you got to be able to then capitalize on that.
Well, I would use it maybe as a following technique,
Yeah. You get them
right?
in.
So if you want to get local followers, then you do things that matter to local people, and that would do it.
Yeah.
You could also modify it. Like cash is great, but cash is complicated from a bookkeeping standpoint. So what I might do is try to make it like local eats.
Yeah. Hey,
And so like Faro is this shop that we the owner is our client, and it's the best sandwiches in town. So maybe I should do a video from Faro saying that we have a $50 gift card and it's actually hidden somewhere in Richie, and then snap at it to me saying it's hidden here, but like no context on where that is.
yeah. Or like local landmarks that
Hmm.
people from there would recognize. Um, and then what I would do if it starts getting traction is I would wait there and meet the people coming to get it.
Oh, and interview them after.
Yeah, because one, that's extra content. It's that little bit of fun of now you know there's someone who follows you, lives locally, and are now thankful because you just gave them something. Like, do you know the Love Your Journey guy? He's a TikTok thing. Have you
Hmm.
ever seen this guy?
No, I don't know that guy.
So he's a watchmaker and he's blown up on TikTok. And he does this all over the entire world now. So he will go set up shop somewhere and go live on TikTok. And just the first person to find him. So he'll say, like, I'm in Toronto. And all the contacts you have is just whatever's behind him in the video. Sometimes it's just like a tree in a park. Like sometimes it's super random. Like he's gone to like the Arctic Circle and done it there. He's done all over the world. And he's just been like, come find me. And first person to find him and say, love your journey gets a free watch. And
Oh, they have a password. Love your journey.
yeah, and now he gets, generally speaking, like it's almost never more than like 30 minutes for someone to find him, no matter where in the world he goes, because his following's grown so much. Like he's had some, he's like, I've done some that I've gone live and like 3 minutes later, someone's been there.
Okay, so now let's modify this. So I
Yeah.
can go to a business that I love and do a short there, like Pharaoh Sandwich Shops.
Yeah.
And then I can give them a keyword like this home is your home and
Bubbles.
tell Pharaoh that someone has to come in there,
Yeah. No,
right?
you want them to have to like go somewhere a little bit, like a little bit of treasure hunt aspect to it,
Oh, okay.
right? Like that's part of the game is like, okay, where is this?
Oh, so maybe I hide the password. And then once they get the password, they have to go to the store and give them the password.
Yeah. Or you just hide a gift card somewhere, like, but
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
there and they have to get it from you. So they have to come to you, you're holding it. Like once it's big enough to get enough
Come to my
followers,
open
right?
house today?
Yeah. But then they have to find which
Probably
open house it
not.
is. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
literally just do it somewhere around town. Like I wouldn't make it related to like the houses because you're
I
just trying to
would,
get local followers and
yeah, in the
local
beginning, I'm not going to
engagement.
wait around because it might not be enough
Yeah.
people. Like you could be there for a long time. But
But
as it
maybe
gets
the
a
first
following,
one
you can
is
see it
something you can
stick.
see from your window,
Hmm.
right? So like could it be somewhere that you might just hang out and spend time anyways, right? And then it like is there a way then to do it? And then I'd like again, it might not. This could be a thing that completely flops. Or it might take you doing it three, four, 5 times before it gets traction. But if it does, that's when it really starts to take off. So like I would first go with find a local company, whether it's Fair or a different one, that has a really engaged following on social.
Yeah, totally.
So one that like if they talked about it, and then like you go live with them and be like, I just bought this $100 gift card for sandwiches here.
Hmm.
I am come find me. And then like you like walk out and like maybe during while you're like going to hide in like a park nearby, you are interviewing the person.
Hmm.
But then you get them because like you get the content of you talking to them, and then like they can almost come and get it live while you're talking to the person.
I wish I could line that up, but we'll see how
Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah, like again, the first few. So like maybe the first one you're just framing it as I'm gonna interview you while I'm hiding it. And yeah, if you get lucky, someone shows up while you're doing it. But it's like, hey, I'm in this park. I'm gonna tape it under this picnic table. First one
Hmm.
to come under this picnic table and get it is going to get it. And then what I would do for the first few is put ad spend behind it until someone goes and gets it.
Gotcha.
Because you want to make sure that people see it. Because like if you do one post and only like 200 people see it, and never, because there's this thing with things like this where people have this impression of, okay, everyone's gonna do it, so I'm not,
Hmm.
right? Because it's like someone else must have gotten it by now.
Too good. Yep.
Yeah, so you want to kind of make sure that they keep wanting to come and get it. Um, or maybe you kind of give out extra hints as it gets closer and closer to people. Be like, by the way, you can go here and get it. Um, Send out a text if like one of your buddies loves it, just be like, by the way, I taped it here, go get it. And then they won. You can film it. And you gotta have that social proof of a few people winning at a time. But like the light up Aurora thing I was mentioning earlier. The first year, every single house that like entered, I went and knocked on their door and told them to enter. and did all the work for it. Because no one, like I put up ads, nobody responded to submit their house to Light of Aurora. So I just one night drove around town until I found houses that looked cool, went up and knocked on their door and asked them dinner.
Hmm.
And then next year, more people wanted to do it because like we got news coverage, like we got in the paper, we these things started happening where like it got that momentum. But that initial stuff, I had to essentially fake the momentum to get it going. And it worked
I
really
think
well.
that's important with every strategy is know how much you're going to have to pump it before it should glide
Yeah.
on its own.
Yeah.
And but you'll almost always underestimate the amount it takes. Like starting a fire with your hands, like where you do the little thing where you kind of
Yeah.
rub the stick back and forth. Well,
Yeah.
if you only do it to 99% of function, you have the same sore hands you would have had if you had
Yeah.
fire. You're just still cold.
And
You have
like
to get it going.
from a marketing standpoint, it's like people who start a Facebook group, right? Like at the beginning, you have to provide most of the content and engagement and community side. Like you have to over index how much time you're spending in one to get it off the ground so that other people feel comfortable posting. And eventually the goal being other people post so much that you don't really have to anymore.
Hmm,
But you have to get to that point where you kind of hit that escape velocity of other people now are posting, not me. But
that's
that's
pretty sick.
it's tough to do, right? So like that's why some groups end up like exponentially growing fast is they've hit that point where the community is comfortable enough to post a lot. And then it goes. And then the person who started it can kind of take a step back and let the community build it. Um, that works well. But we've gone over time.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, for
Yeah.
those people wondering why we have a podcast, this is why.
Yeah.
Because we would just do this.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
share like throwing the ball back and forth, like playing catch is kind of what Andrew and I do. And so thank you for joining us today to do it. This is the leads are shit. This is a real estate magazine podcast, and we really appreciate you. We're gonna catch you next time.
all right.
So
And
next Thursday.
as always, we are probably going to stick around with the recording off for a bit. And so if you're here live and want to hang out and talk, we can answer questions or we'll just keep talking randomly more off the record because, we're very filtered when we talk on the recording. So we'll go even more. Otherwise, appreciate you guys spending time with us today. If you're here live, stick around. We'll keep talking. If you are watching the recording, show up live next time and you can stick around for this part. So see you guys next week.